Inside of Dr. No, 007 is responsible for foiling a plot to stop a launch into space by the Americans, trying to be stopped by Dr. No, the half-Chinese and half-German terrorist part of the Spectre organization, as he reveals. Spectre, of course, stands for Special Executive for Counterintelligence, Terrorism, Revenge, and Extortion. I know, that's a mouthful. With the success of Dr. No, it was almost a given that we were going to get a sequel for Bond. And sure enough, a year later, we had our second entry in the James Bond film franchise, presented by Ewan Productions, entitled From Russia with Love.
Only the second James Bond thriller could be more exciting than the first.
With Sean Connery returning, this Bond film showed Bond on the hunt for a decoder, also known as a Lektor. And right on his heels is Spectre in the shadows, but also an assassin known as Red Grant, played by Robert Shaw, who you might know from Jaws, trying to kill him so that they can take the Lektor for their own nefarious purposes. And what ensues is one of the most action-packed Bonds in the early series, and there were even more mainstays in the Bond film franchise that were established in here. First and foremost, we get a bigger look behind the curtain of the Spectre organization, and how there's a faceless man with a white cat running the show. Then we see how deep their reach is, and the fact that they were actually able to recruit Rosa Klebb, who was a former Soviet agent, and how they use her to control and manipulate Bond by feeding information to a young, naive Russian agent.
So you're Tatiana Romanova.
My friends call me Tanya.
You're one of the most beautiful girls I've ever seen.
Thank you. But I think my mouth is too big.
No, it's the right size. For me, that is.
This was also the first time that a Bond film had used a live-action actress in which they promoted graphics and put titles across, which many of the other later Bond films would begin to utilize, and even in the special effects-laden days of the 90s and even the modern era. This film was also the first appearance of Desmond Llewellyn as Q. And for those of you who don't know, Q Branch is the part of the MI6 agency that gives Bond all of his fancy gadgets and toys. Overall, James Bond's second outing turned up the action and the romance with its story, and revealed more and more of the Bond world as it pulled back the curtains of not only the Spectre organization slowly, but also of Smersh and the Russian agency that would also be somewhat of an interfering force in upcoming James Bond films, especially later on in the 80s. One of the great unique things about this Bond film was it was the first one to include a pre-title sequence, in which we actually saw someone who was posing as Bond going against Red Grant. This did a great job in illustrating how badass Red Grant really was and how deadly he could be, despite him killing someone who was only a poser as Bond. But still, when audiences first saw this in theaters, they might have been pretty jarred to see that the main character was killed, but then even more so when they saw that it was just a mask and a prosthetic that was used for a training exercise of all things. And I really did enjoy the fact that it was actually Robert Shaw, who, when I was little, I remember seeing in Jaws. It always blows my mind to see an actor from something totally different be in a Bond film. It's one of those things that I just can't get over, and it's pretty cool if I do say so myself. Especially when he was in Jaws, how he looked very rough with facial hair, and then you see him clean-cut and kind of muscular and a badass, going toe-to-toe with Sean Connery's James Bond. But overall, guys, this was definitely a great follow-up to the original Bond film, and it had a little bit of connective tissue between this one and the previous one, and definitely recommend watching if you haven't seen it. Well, guys, that brings us to a close on episode 2 of the James Bond review series. Closing out From Russia with Love, it was a fantastic film and definitely worth your watch if you haven't seen it. And guys, next time I'll be talking about Goldfinger, so stay tuned for that video. And guys, if you like this video, make sure you drop a like, comment, and subscribe, and if you are, make sure you hit that bell button, that way you never miss a moment of my content. But until next time, guys, I will catch you on the next video. So take care.